Veteran is going to take his time before deciding on his new team. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. The headline in the newspaper read, Black leaders join forces to bring Destination Crenshaw toward the finish line. Now, beyond the headline phraseology of toward the finish line, if you actually read the article, it said that Black-owned contractors are now being mobilized, major new financing is being secured, and it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. That statement has more hedges than a Beverly Hills mansion, more hedges than a nervous groom's wedding vows written by a divorce lawyer. But it's funny how progress starts moving once somebody turns on a microphone. 4 weeks of KBLA editorials and suddenly everyone has found their hard hats. It's amazing what happens when the community starts asking questions out loud, and this is why Black media matters. We don't need more empty promises. We need a finished project. Political accountability to Black fellow citizens means that elected officials and institutions must answer for their actions or inaction in ways that are real, measurable, and consequential when they fail to follow through. I suppose the good news here is that LA City Council President and 8th District Representative Marquise Harris Dawson is now officially on the record. But to be clear, he's also on the clock. Remember now, it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. We shall see. We have exercised our right to free speech, but there are other rights the Black business community can exercise as well. This is a classic example of a public nuisance claim if ever there was one. Again, we shall see. What I can tell you is that Black business owners and Crenshaw community residents have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up in our lobby demanding more and asking how they can sign on to this effort. Put simply, after years of delay, the people have had enough. My big mama put it this way: once a task you have first begun, never finish until it is done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Now, I need to put on my hard hat, go outside, and wait for these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews to show up. I'll let you know if and when they do. Trust and believe. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback.
KBLA Talk 1580. Happy, well, whatever you're celebrating. This is, it feels like a Friday. It's a Thursday. The 250th birthday of the United States of America is on Saturday. And we're being joined by an historian, which I love. In fact, he's my favorite historian. He's got his BA from Princeton, his JD from UC Berkeley, his PhD from Columbia. He's got dozens of books, literally dozens of published books, including most recently The Capital of Slavery, Washington, D.C., 1800 to 1865. Dr. Gerald Horne, good morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. I think we have more people in our YouTube chat right now than we have at the America's state fair, so our celebration is pretty robust.
Well, I'm not sure if that's saying that much, given how the American State Fair has fallen through the basement.
Yeah, it's been pretty pathetic, and amazing that this guy keeps winning primaries, considering he can't get 12 people to a free event. But I digress. I was, thinking about 250 years of the United States of America, and I'm thinking about your work as an historian in tracking Black people in this country globally, and within sort of the white supremacist frame. So if we first came, and I know lots of people say, including Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, that we were here before 1619. But if we track the main movement of Black people to the United States to 1619, that means we were here before there was in America.
Oh, indeed. Indeed, before 1619, even if you set aside the work of Ivan Van Sertima, we already know that in 1565, the Spanish invaded what they call Florida, establishing St. Augustine, a city that still exists, billing itself as the longest living settlement of Europeans on this continent. And there were enslaved Africans in St. Augustine, and even a few decades before that, in the 1520s. It's well known that the Spanish, in seeking to conquer the land we're now living on, they brought enslaved Africans to the Carolinas, what we now call the Carolinas, and those enslaved Africans revolted, chased the Spanish back to the Caribbean, and merged with the indigenous population. So we have a long and gloried history on this continent.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I don't mean to dismiss Van Sertima. They Came Before Columbus is one of my favorite books, but we're talking about the United States, and there was no United States in the 1520s, 1565, or 1619. So we were part of what would you call that?
We were part of a colonial process, a colonial process initiated by the Spanish post-1492, joined in by London at the end of the 1500s when they tried to establish a settlement in what they called North Carolina, and then finally establishing a settlement in Virginia in 1607, therefore leading to 1619.
And so one of the things that I found really fascinating, is your work about the revolution, right? When you talk about the American Revolution, many tellings of that, including popular portrayals like the series Outlander, which is historical fiction, wildly popular. It's automatically presumed that Black people or enslaved people or free people in this colonial project would side with the American Revolution, with the against the crown. But that turns out to not be true, right?
It's absolutely false and inaccurate. Even patriotic historians, so-called, recognize that by several orders of magnitude, Black people fought against George Washington. In fact, George Washington sought to bar Black people from his ranks until he saw us flooding into the ranks of the Redcoats. We also know that there was good reason for that decision, because there were thousands of enslaved Africans in 1776. On the verge of the U.S. Civil War in 1861, there were millions. And so our ancestors thought with good reason that the settlers wanted to expand slavery, which is precisely what they did.
That's right. So you're saying that this wasn't just random. Obviously, Black people looked at the logic of the situation. Well, these so-called revolutionaries are enslavers, and the British are also enslavers, but they were a little later to the party. So the logical conclusion was that we might do better with the British than with the American Revolution as far as taking sides.
Well, it's just like politics today. Many people realize the Democratic Party is not a panacea, but they vote for it in large numbers over the Republican Party, which they see as a disaster and a catastrophe. Likewise, in the late 18th century, Britain was ahead of the settlers in terms of moving to abolish slavery, and we know this because Britain withdrew from the African slave trade before the United States did in 1807 versus 1808, and then abolished slavery in the Caribbean in the 1830s, and it took a bloody civil war for the United States to abolish slavery in the 1860s. And so, generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that our ancestors made a historically correct decision.
Historically correct, but rarely discussed, and why do you think that is?
Elaborate. I'm not sure I understand.
Well, I mean, you were the first person that taught me that. I never learned it in school. I never saw it discussed in fiction. Why? Do you think that's just an oversight, or do you think it is a convenient ploy to make Black Americans feel that we have a loyalty or allegiance to this country and its very origins?
Well, I think it's the latter. And I think it's remarkable that left, right, and center in this country, who oftentimes disagree on many things, they all agree on the alleged historical progressive nature of the creation of the United States of America. And now, I'm particularly critical of the left because they really should know better. But they think that if they take a different position, it'll fracture unity at this moment. That is to say, the Black population is a central component of the progressive coalition, and if the Black population feels that the country was built on their backs against their interests, will be reluctant to join this coalition. And so I think it's a certain kind of opportunism on the part of our friends on the left. They really should know better.
Yeah, it's so well said. I mean, whatever, if it's inconvenient, if that's what the historical facts show, I think that's where we need to lean. That's what we got to lean into. That's exactly what Dr. Gerald Horne does. Get out a pen or just open your brain. We are talking America, or USA, I should say. USA. America's a whole continent. There's a north and a south. Bunch of countries in it. USA, America's 250. That's what we're talking about with a historically accurate lens. Dr. Gerald Horne is our guest, and we'll continue the conversation when we come forward, only right here.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
You make my day. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. 5 years old, yeah, with more that's coming your way. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA. Look, 5 years deep and we still going up. Built it from the ground, never real, no one else. Real talk on the air, then the truth get heard. Every day the proof getting served. He had a vision and he stayed with the plan. Now they tapped in from the beach to the land. Never back down, 7 days of the week, still going up now. We 5 years deep. Wishing happy birthday to KBLA. Tell me smiley, you did it with 5 years today. Congratulations, come on y'all, let's celebrate. Happy birthday to KBLA.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. We don't tell you what to think, just what to think about.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic tax relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
So you can hear it. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Gerald Horne with us. He is a leading historian, not just in the country, but in the world. He's got dozens of books. I suggest you go pick them up. They are sold wherever books are sold. Or you can simply Google him on YouTube, and you're going to find a bunch of his lectures. However, he's got some amazing shows on our YouTube as well. And wherever you get your pods, you can find our podcasts of past shows. So I took us all the way back to before there was a USA, and you pointed out another thing I didn't know, which is that really in the 1520s, the Spanish brought enslaved Africans here to the Carolinas. I didn't realize that at all. I learned something or a bunch of things new every time we talk, and I love that. And then you said 1565, Spanish invaded Florida, settled St. Augustine, and they had enslaved folks in tow. And we were talking about how you said the majority of black people in this country were fighting against George Washington, not for George Washington, because we rightly realized that the so-called revolutionaries, the settlers here, would be much slower to abolish enslavement, and they were.
Well, absolutely they were. That was a very wise decision on the part of our ancestors. I think we also need to realize that one of the reasons we've been treated so atrociously and horribly since the founding of this country up to this very moment, where infant mortality is at an all-time high, where we are disproportionately cited on death row, disproportionately victims of police terror, is precisely because if you fight a war and lose, which basically is what happened with regard to our ancestors, your descendants will be punished forevermore until you can turn the tables, which is what we proceeded to do by lengthening the battlefield, by internationalizing our struggle, aligning with the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804. And of course, the Haitians are still being punished to this very day, precisely because they broke the back of enslavement and opened the door for freedom. And you can draw a straight line from 1804 to 2026, when the U.S. Supreme Court seeks to withdraw temporary protective status from Haitian migrants on this land and sending them out of this country by the tens of thousands.
Which means that when we talk about white supremacy, it's not a vague concept when it comes to the United States. It has been public policy since the founding and since before the founding of this nation.
Well, let's talk about the founding. A turning point in our torturous struggle on this land comes in 1790. What happens then? By 1790, Spain had resumed control of Florida, where it had been ousted for a few decades, beginning in the 1770s. And as a gift to George Washington, the Spanish, who helped George Washington against the British, withdrew their policy of granting sanctuary to fleeing runaway Africans, fleeing from Georgia in particular, but also the Carolinas and Virginia. And that was a mighty blow to our struggle, because no longer did we have Spanish Florida as a rear base. And then, of course, we know the end of the story, which is, as is typical, the United States then stabbed Spain in the back by seizing Florida from Spain a few decades later, where it has been ever since in the United States of America.
Wow. Dr. Gerald Horne, is that one of the reasons why I never realized until I read, I think, Isabel Wilkerson's first book, how Florida is one of our most racist states in the Union?
Well, Florida is a strange state. I mean, for one, as noted, it was controlled by the Spanish for centuries. Actually, it was under Spanish rule longer than it has been under U.S. rule. And then I'm afraid to say that Florida has been a magnet for racists from Cuba, from Latin America. The new president of Colombia, for example, De La Espriella, who is a mob lawyer, a Trump donor, has a mansion in South Florida, and he is about as racist as they come.
Yeah. Oh, that's joy! That's such cheery news. Let's go to the Constitution, since we're talking about the USA's 250th birthday. We often hear sort of the talking point or short version of the status of Black people in the United States in our U.S. Constitution. As being less than a full person. You break that down not just in terms of that, but in terms of how that runs throughout the Constitution, the original U.S. Constitution.
Well, I'm glad you singled out the original U.S. Constitution, the 18th century Constitution, which, as you note correctly, speaks of people of African descent as 3/5 of a human being for purposes of congressional districting and redistricting. But I'd like to bring it to this week, where you have the birthright citizenship decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. And what's interesting about that decision is that birthright citizenship is plainly encoded in the post-Civil War Constitution and the 14th Amendment. And yet, only a 5-4 majority voted in favor of birthright citizenship, I should say. And Mr. Kavanaugh, who provided the fifth vote, basically gave a roadmap for the right wing to overthrow birthright citizenship. And in light of the fact that birthright citizenship was intended to overthrow the Dred Scott decision in 1857, where the U.S. Supreme Court said that Black people did not have the right to be U.S. citizens, then the 14th Amendment reversed that. So if you reverse the 14th Amendment, where does that leave us? It's particularly chilling in light of the well-known fact that there have been repeated efforts to oust and deport the Black population going back to Liberia 200 years ago. During the midst of the U.S. Civil War, Lincoln was negotiating with Brazil to send us all there. Brazil said, we have enough Black people, thank you very much, we don't need yours. And then after the U.S. Civil War, there was an attempt to send us to the Dominican Republic. In the end of the 19th century, there was an attempt to send us all to the Philippines. So I hope that our community recognized the very dangerous and perilous moment that we now face, because the U.S. Supreme Court is saying, when they talk about the original understanding of the Constitution, they're talking about the pro-slavery Constitution of the late 18th century. They're not speaking of the post-1865, the post-U.S. Civil War Constitution, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and that is quite chilling.
So when they say originalist, they mean original. They mean pre-amendment original.
Well, clearly. And let's look at the Constitution, because many of our friends on the left, when they salute 1776, they point to the Constitution. But if you look at the First Amendment guaranteeing freedom of religion, that did not necessarily come out of the brains of forward-thinking people. The settlers needed more folks defined as white in order to subdue the Native Americans and keep the Africans in line. And so therefore, freedom of religion allowed them to incorporate the Jewish community, then persecuted in Europe, into the ranks of this so-called republic. And sadly, many of our friends on the left saw that as a progressive step forward, but only in the narrowest sense. And if you look at the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, that was not intended for Black people. We didn't have the right to bear arms. We had the right to have arms wielded against us, And certainly it did not apply to the Native American population. So this 18th century Constitution is a very dangerous document as far as our community is concerned.
Just got a couple of minutes here before news, traffic, and sports, but you talked about the roadmap in this birthright citizenship decision by the Supreme Court, the roadmap to rescind it. What does that look like?
Well, basically what Brett Kavanaugh would say, and what Mr. Trump has echoed in the Truth Social Post, is that the Congress should just write a new law that overturns birthright citizenship. Now, presumably that'll go back to the Supreme Court, and they can look at the 14th Amendment on the one hand and this new law on the other, and decide that the new law basically is in contradiction with the 14th Amendment. But the way politics are going, that won't happen. And
right. So because typically if it's a constitutional amendment, you just can't write a law and overthrow it. You have to, I mean, if it's in the Constitution, you have to amend the Constitution. You just can't have Congress write a law. Otherwise, we could, put term limits on the Supreme Court. But what you're saying is because this court is so untraditional, to put it mildly, because they're so partisan and activist, that they could allow a law to stand coming from Congress, even if it was unconstitutional, and basically overturn a constitutional amendment with a congressional law.
Well, that's the thinking of Mr. Trump. That's the thinking of Brett Kavanaugh. And I think we should take them seriously, because many things are happening today that we may not have envisioned ever being dreamed of. And now they're settled reality. It seems to me if they want to get at this question of birth tourism, that's supposedly the problem. They say that women from China, visibly pregnant, they say, come to California to give birth so that their children can be considered U.S. nationals. Well, they could pass laws, if that is their concern, targeting that. Instead, they're going to overthrow the entire constitutional structure to get at this one narrow issue.
Dr. Gerald Horne is my guest. We're talking USA 250, a little history, a lot of history actually, and we'll resume after news, traffic, and sports, only right here.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with VIN News Now. A federal judge has blocked the U.S. Postal Service from enforcing President Trump's executive order restricting mail-in ballots. The ruling expands an earlier decision that applied only to several Democratic-led states, making the injunction nationwide. The lawsuit was brought by the NAACP, which argued the order could undermine voting access ahead of the midterm elections. On this day in history, back in 1964, former President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The new law made it illegal to discriminate against people based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And Phoenix Mercury star Alyssa Thomas says she received death threats after a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark during a game against the Indiana Fever last week. Thomas is calling on the WNBA to do more to protect players from online harassment. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
PCH is open. Take the 101 freeway to Canaan Road. Malibu is open for business. Enjoy a scenic drive through the mountains and return to the beautiful beach. A beach day is always a better day. It's open and waiting for you.
Sponsored by Recreation Alliance.
Is this the title? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's soccer team is in the Sweet 16 of the World Cup for the first time since 2002. They shut out Bosnia 2-0 in Santa Clara to move past the round of 32. The U.S. plays Belgium Monday night in Seattle. The Dodgers are back in town tonight to start a 10-game homestand. They're coming off a 7-2 road trip. The Dodgers take on San Diego tonight in the first game of a 4-game series. The Padres are 12 games behind the Dodgers in the NL West. The Dodgers still have the best record in Major League Baseball at 56-31. On the first day of free agency in the NBA, the Lakers did not waste any time to rebuild their roster after being kicked to the curb by LeBron. The Lakers made a trade for Utah's 7-foot center Walker Kessler and signed 3 veteran forwards as free agents. As for LeBron, NBA sources claim the 23-year veteran is going to take his time before deciding on his new team. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. And we're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity. And you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
Let's do this.
We're heading into one of the most important election seasons in a generation. And with so much on the line, your health care, your economy, your neighborhood, you deserve more than sound bites. You deserve the full story. KBLA Talk 1580 is your trusted voice for political coverage, commentary, and conversation. From local races to national headlines, we bring you the insight and perspective you need to make sense of it all and make your voice heard. Between now and November, a lot will happen. A lot will change. But one thing won't. KBLA Talk 1580 will be right here, keeping you informed, keeping you engaged, and keeping it real. KBLA Talk 1580, the place for politics.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth.
Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome. We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Yeah, you want to learn a little bit about your country in honor of the 250th alleged anniversary of the alleged USA. We have got Dr. Gerald Horne, one of the world's most renowned historians, on with me this morning, and he is sharing a lot of stuff about then and now, how it started and how it's going, I guess you could say, in, talking about this idea of birthright citizenship. And it's interesting because they're in the YouTube chat, and Morris says that fortunately or unfortunately, Black Americans can't be deported. But that's actually not true, is it?
Absolutely not true. I mean, you should look at the history of Liberia. I talk about it in the book you so kindly mentioned, The Capital of Slavery. That is to say, after the War of 1812, the free Negro population, which was heavily cited in Baltimore, they were accused of helping the British burn down the White House. And therefore, that led directly to the attempt to send all the free Negroes to West Africa, to Liberia. Then after the Nat Turner slave revolt of August 1831, the idea was to send many of the enslaved to Liberia as well. And I've talked about other attempts to send us to Brazil. I could have mentioned the attempt to send us to the Congo in the 1880s by Senator John Tyler Morgan of Alabama. So I think that the person who made that comment needs to revisit history.
Wow, I did not know about. See, this is the thing about having Dr. Horne on. We always, at least I get smarter. Y'all can get smarter or not. It's up to you. 1880s, they tried to send us to the Congo. I never heard of that before.
Well, it was an effort by a Dixiecrat senator from Alabama. I'm not suggesting that it was on the verge of completion. I am suggesting that it has substantial support within the U.S. Congress. In fact, I talk about this in a book I'll publish in a few weeks, where I also talk about that there was this concerted effort to convert black Americans to settlers in Africa. We were to be settler colonial subjects on behalf of Washington, just as many of us wound up being settler colonial subjects in Liberia.
Yeah, that's wild. So to answer your question or your statement, Morris, we can be deported, and that's exactly the point. I mean, if in fact you, as Dr. Horne just said, the 14th Amendment was put in place to reverse Dred Scott and say that we were actually citizens of this country. If the 14th Amendment is de facto overturned by this Supreme Court, the question becomes, what is the basis of African American citizenship in the United States? And clearly, just gauging by the fact that 100% of the refugees accepted in last year by the Trump administration are white, clearly they are trying to reverse the blackening and browning of this country.
Well, I think we need to realize, as this 250th anniversary is noted, that it was intended to create a so-called white republic. Despite protestations to the contrary, it was not necessarily intended to incorporate people like our ancestors. And I agree that as of today, July 2nd, it does appear unlikely that the black population will be subject to mass deportation. But 10 years ago, it was unlikely that there would be a trillionaire, for example.
Or that Roe versus Wade would be overturned, for goodness sakes.
Exactly. Or look at the New York Times yesterday with Mr. Trump making billions since January 2025, mostly through this crypto scheme, world liberty, as he calls it, with most of his supporters being on the losing end of that proposition. And, of course, many of his investors being from the Arab and Persian world, particularly the Arab world, particularly Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, for example. And where is the U.S. military now heavily involved? Involved precisely in the Persian Gulf.
Man, that plane is that, I mean, the fact that the corruption can just be so blatant and there's not any rumblings of revolution or revolt is actually pretty troubling to me.
Well, it should be troubling. And I think that the sad reality, the unfortunate reality, is that many in the Trump base, 77 million strong as of November 2024, they are not necessarily concerned with Trump becoming more of a billionaire than he was supposedly originally. They're not concerned with Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire on paper. They're concerned with overthrowing birthright citizenship because from what they see, the immigrant population is competition for jobs. They're concerned with overthrowing diversity, equity, and inclusion and affirmative action because, as they see it, the groups that are beneficiaries of DEI and affirmative action are, once again, competitors for jobs. And that's the sad truth and sad reality of politics today.
Competitors for jobs, but yet I was reading an article yesterday about how Haitians, which are now going to be deported en masse, black people getting kicked out en masse, likely, that they're holding up a lot of the healthcare system in these jobs of caretakers, of home healthcare workers, and taking care of the giant population of older Americans that we currently have, and that there are not people in place queued up desirous of those jobs. So it's a very ironic thing that they're talking about competitions for jobs that they either don't want or are not qualified for. And in fact, we're going to see a huge hit to the U.S. economy by kicking out these 350,000 Haitians.
That is precisely why the Republican governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, was on the PBS NewsHour pleading for a reversal of this decision to oust Haitians en masse, because they rescued Springfield, Ohio, just like they rescued a number of other cities as well. But the sad truth and reality is that the right wing, in its present iteration, they're not necessarily operating on a rational basis.
Yeah.
They're oftentimes
fair
operating on an emotional basis.
What happened? I mean, this sounds crazy, but they were talking about, the World Cup in 2032, and maybe the women's team will come here. And it started, maybe the Women's World Cup will come to the United States, which I kind of hope it doesn't, because we're terrible hosts. We don't give people visas. We kick them out after games and stuff, which makes me really embarrassed. But my bigger question was, what will the U.S. look like then? I mean, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, Dr. Horne. I'm wondering, are we going to have a U.S.? Will the U.S. as we know it continue to exist?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the World Cup, because I happened to watch a good deal of the game last night between the United States and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the contradictions arose there, because the referees, on a very spurious basis, ousted altogether this black man on the U.S. team. And, of course, the Bosnian team was heavily melanin deficient, for example. And I have to say that I've looked at that very suspiciously, because what's happening right now, as we well know, that the rulers and their acolytes, they're against diversity, except when it comes to sports. You can, as a basketball player, you can make $1 million as a freshman at USC, for example, shooting the ball through the hoop, not to mention on the football team. And so that was the contradiction of the World Cup last night. That is to say that the referee apparently was operating on U.S. principles, not realizing that there's a carve-out when it comes to sports, where we're supposed to be subject to equality and diversity is okay.
Wow. And to the broader question, will there be a U.S. to host the 2032 World Cup? I mean, will we have a revolution? Could it be an electoral revolution? We see these democratic socialists getting, put into office across the country. Or could it be a consciousness revolution? Or might we see actual race war or political conflict in this country? Because it feels like what is happening right now is unsustainable. We have, the original grifting supposed illegal immigrant, Elon Musk, now a trillionaire, who's yelling at Mackenzie Scott for giving away her money, saying she's making the world worse. The gap between rich and poor is growing. The middle class is shrinking. The rights are being taken away. It does not feel sustainable. The oligarchy is getting so blatant. The corruption is getting so in our faces. Or am I in my own bubble and people are just going to let it slide?
You are not in your own bubble. On the other hand, we should point out, in light of some of the electoral trends, they're promising. Look at what's happened in Colorado.
Yay!
Where an Ethiopian American ousted a 15-term incumbent. Now Colorado will have 2 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, one an Ethiopian American, the other an Eritrean American. That is significant and profound and probably has consequences for U.S. policy in the Horn of Africa. Not to mention what happened, as you know more than most, in New York City with the ouster of the head of Congressional Hispanic Caucus, who, by the way, some of his acolytes were running this heavily anti-Haitian campaign, suggesting that his opponent was Haitian. Supposedly that is a demerit. Supposedly that was to be held against him. But in any event, he'll be looking for a new job. And Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier will be taking his place. And she is very stern with regard to the genocide in Gaza. She actually taught on the West Bank. She was an activist on the Columbia University campus when they had that turmoil post-October 7, 2023. So there are some promising trends.
Indeed.
On the other, I don't have to say on the other hand because everybody knows what that's all about.
Yeah, the other foot on our neck. But I mean, Dr. Horne, then the Democratic Party, the corporate Democratic Party, the establishment as they like to call themselves, they're having a whole hissy fit saying these people aren't really Democrats, they shouldn't be in the party. And you and I have been saying for years, that's where the energy is in the party. If the Democratic Party is going to be relevant at all, they're going to have to lean into the progressive wing because that's where the energy is, that's where the young people are, that's where the votes are. But really ever since when they kind of cheated Bernie out of his nomination, they've been trying to suppress that wing of the party.
Well, the establishment wing is in a contradiction. On the one hand, they tell these folks on the left, you can't run third party. And if you do, like Ralph Nader, you'll be denounced and excoriated forevermore. But you can't run in the primaries either. So what are you supposed to do? Disappear?
Right.
I mean, they need to make up their mind. And I think that also these Democratic establishment leaders, they can't count. Because if they could count, they'd recognize that they cannot afford to alienate these folks on the left because they need them to counterbalance and to outweigh the 77 million Trump coalition, which is powerful and is not going away anytime soon.
Dr. Gerald Horne is our guest. We're talking America 250 USA, I should say, because like I said, America's a continent, a couple of them actually. And you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
And the match is about to begin.
Most of the team is out with COVID-19, so there'll be some substitutes tonight.
What's this? We have an unexpected guest on the field.
It's a dog. Well, they could do with extra players.
She's going for the ball.
Are front paws hands or feet?
Soccer season is full of surprises, and COVID-19 could be one of them. If you test positive, prescription medications may help. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Learn more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce, spruce, spruce.
It's spruce, the weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people, pets, and bees. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour, and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Spruce, pet friendly, weed deadly. Find wherever weed killers are sold.
Did you know the Crenshaw Corridor now offers free public Wi-Fi? Thanks to Destination Crenshaw and the City of Los Angeles, staying connected is easier than ever. Whether you're checking email, applying for jobs, doing homework, or supporting your local business, free internet access is now available along the corridor because everyone deserves the opportunity to connect, learn, and grow. To find Wi-Fi locations and learn more, visit www.getconnected.lacity.gov.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $3 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
Dr. Gerald Horne is our guest. 4th of July is upon us. It is 250th, I guess, 4th of July celebration. And it, of course, brings up the July 5th, 1852 Frederick Douglass keynote address. What to the slave is the 4th of July. You want to speak on that?
Well, sure. I would recommend to your audience that you dial up, particularly on YouTube, the replay of those powerful words rendered by the late James Earl Jones. There's another version rendered by the late Ossie Davis. There's another version rendered by Danny Glover, who I'm sad to say just revealed he has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest that on July 4th that you have that particular speech on replay perpetually because it has a lot to teach us to this very day.
All right, let's quickly go to Carl calling from L.A. Carl has a question for you, Dr. Horne. We're close to the top of the hour, Carl, so if you could keep it short, I would appreciate you.
Sure. I only seen one white man in a suit this morning on C-SPAN talk about the sister that was in the voting situation, Fannie Lou Hamer. But my question is to you, Dr. Horne. Kamala Harris has been talking with Madani, if I pronounced his name right. Now Gavin Newsom wants to talk with the guy. Where are we going with this Democratic Party for the next presidency? Because, hey, we don't want no revolution. The last that I thought I seen.
Okay, got it. Dr. Horne.
Well, I think that Vice President Harris knows what time it is. She can count. She saw that in these Democratic primaries in New York City, Mayor Mamdani of Gotham emerged as a kingmaker.
Yep.
And she is going to have a tough time competing against her fellow San Franciscans, speaking of Governor Newsom, who is stepping down. And in fact, as you well know, he and his spouse are now being investigated by the Trump Justice Department.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so he has even more reason to become president so that he can scuttle any sort of investigation by the Justice Department.
Yeah. So, I mean, and to Carl's worry about a revolution, I mean, I don't think you stop a revolution with a meeting with Mamdani or start one. I think if we're headed in that direction, probably Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and Donald Trump's corruption has more to do with it than a meeting with Mamdani.
I think if the caller has a need to worry, he should worry about a counter-revolution, which is really the path that we're on now. That's the import of the gutting and evisceration of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the danger that birthright citizenship is in, the danger that the post-Civil War Constitution is in. We're in the midst of a counter-revolution. And if we're not careful, it will reach its logical misfortune for all of us.
So 250 years in, you see it as a counter-revolution. And what would it take to undo this? I mean, I think about these, toxic decisions coming from the Supreme Court and the moves that are being made, between DOJ and other executive orders. I mean, it seems like it's not the kind of thing you can fix in a week, a day, or even a decade.
Well, we're in the midst of a long march on the positive side. And I think the secret sauce of the Democratic Socialists of America is canvassing. They go door to door and knock on people's doors and talk to them. Whereas the establishment wing of the Democratic Party, they put out television ads and digital ads, and they have mailers, for example.
and they talk to consultants. That's who they talk to.
Right. Exactly. And I think that this door-to-door process is something that needs to be emulated in our community, for example. It should not just be the province of the DSA.
Well, labor does a lot of door knocking too, and we got a lot of black folks in labor. But I understand what you're saying. They need to go back to knocking on doors and talking and knocking on doors and listening.
Absolutely. Because just mailing it in and just phoning it in obviously has reached this point of exhaustion. And I would hope that that's dawning on the presumed speaker in waiting, Hakeem Jeffries, not to mention, go ahead.
No, that was just there was no sentence attached.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they call him AIPAC Shakur. We'll see if he makes the speakership or not. But Dr. Horne, you mentioned another book coming out, and I just wanted to tee that up for you to remind people to look for it and to purchase your last book as well.
Well, the last book actually was The Counter-Revolution of 1893, the Hawaii coup and the roots of U.S. imperialism in the Asia-Pacific Basin. The next book will be out in a few weeks, Slavery, the Slave Trade, and the Roots of U.S. Imperialism. Then with a long subtitle that goes from North Africa to Egypt to Sudan, Ethiopia, West Asia, Ottoman Turkey, Russia, and Western Europe.
Aha, and I presume you'll be sending a free copy to any of the U.S. presidential candidates who was not able to say that the United States is a racist country.
Well, sure. I mean, it would be my honor to do so.
Dr. Gerald Horne, thank you so much for being with us today. I so appreciate your insights on the United States' 250th anniversary.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and my suggestion, if you want to celebrate, yes, put Frederick Douglass on repeat and grab a Dr. Gerald Horne book and learn a little bit of our real history. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Dr. Horne. Tavis Smiley's on deck. He's got a great show for you today. You don't want to miss that. He will be here in 54321. You can tap in with me on social media. I'm at DePrima Radio on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere, TikTok, and you can DM me, clap back. I love to keep it going, even after the microphone has turned off. Also, I would love to get you to check out some of our pods that you may have missed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Like my father, the late, great Amiri Barakat, former poet laureate of New Jersey, used to say, a person is either free or they are not free. There can be no apprenticeship for freedom. Until next time, KBLA delegation, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with VIN News Now. A federal judge has blocked the U.S. Postal Service from enforcing President Trump's executive order restricting mail-in ballots. The ruling expands an earlier decision that applied only to several Democratic-led states, making the injunction nationwide. The lawsuit was brought by the NAACP, which argued the order could undermine voting access ahead of the midterm elections. On this day in history, back in 1964, former President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The new law made it illegal to discriminate against people based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And Phoenix Mercury star Alyssa Thomas says she received death threats after a flagrant foul on Caitlin Clark during a game against the Indiana Fever last week. Thomas is calling on the WNBA to do more to protect players from online harassment. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
PCH is open. Take the 101 freeway to Canaan Road. Malibu is open for business. Enjoy a scenic drive through the mountains and return to the beautiful beach. A beach day is always a better day. It's open and waiting for you.
Sponsored by Recreation Alliance.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's soccer team is in the Sweet 16 of the World Cup for the first time since 2002. They shut out Bosnia 2-0 in Santa Clara to move past the round of 32. The U.S. plays Belgium Monday night in Seattle. The Dodgers are back in town tonight to start a 10-game homestand. They're coming off a 7-2 road trip. The Dodgers take on San Diego tonight in the first game of a 4-game series. The Padres are 12 games behind the Dodgers in the NL West. The Dodgers still have the best record in Major League Baseball at 56-31. On the first day of free agency in the NBA, the Lakers did not waste any time to rebuild their roster after being kicked to the curb by LeBron. The Lakers made a trade for Utah's 7-foot center Walker Kessler and signed 3 veteran forwards as free agents. As for LeBron, NBA sources claim the 23-year veteran is going to take his time before deciding on his new team. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. The headline in the newspaper read, Black leaders join forces to bring Destination Crenshaw toward the finish line. Now, beyond the headline phraseology of toward the finish line, If you actually read the article, it said that black-owned contractors are now being mobilized, major new financing is being secured, and it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. That statement has more hedges than a Beverly Hills mansion, more hedges than a nervous groom's wedding vows written by a divorce lawyer. But it's funny how progress starts moving once somebody turns on a microphone. 4 weeks of KBLA editorials, and suddenly everyone has found their hard hats. It's amazing what happens when the community starts asking questions out loud, and this is why black media matters. We don't need more empty promises. We need a finished project. Political accountability to black fellow citizens means that elected officials and institutions must answer for their actions or inaction in ways that are real, measurable, and consequential when they fail to follow through. I suppose the good news here is that LA City Council President and 8th District Representative Marquise Harris Dawson is now officially on the record. But to be clear, he's also on the clock. Remember now, it is anticipated that construction activities will begin within the next weeks. We shall see. We have exercised our right to free speech, but there are other rights the black business community can exercise as well. This is a classic example of a public nuisance claim if ever there was one. Again, we shall see. What I can tell you is that black business owners and Crenshaw community residents have been calling, emailing, and literally showing up in our lobby demanding more and asking how they can sign on to this effort. Put simply, after years of delay, the people have had enough. My big mama put it this way: once a task you have first begun, never finish until it is done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. Now, I need to put on my hard hat, go outside, and wait for these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews to show up. I'll let you know if and when they do. Trust and believe. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback. Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. This weekend, as if you did not know, America turns 250. Fireworks will light up the sky, and flags will be waving everywhere. Well, maybe not everywhere. There's a new poll which suggests that most black Americans never fly the American flag. The AP NORC poll finds a deep divide over the American flag, with only about 3 in 10 black adults displaying it, compared with roughly half of white and Hispanic adults. Older white Republicans tend to see the flag as a unifying symbol of freedom,
while many black Americans describe it as a painful reminder of exclusion and unrealized promises. That's the data point from the AP NORC poll. In any event, leading up to this historic moment this weekend, there's been no shortage of fellow citizens leaning in to tell the story as they see it of where this nation has been and where it is headed. But there's another story running underneath that one, as we well know, a story about who built this country, who was left out of its founding promises, and who has spent 2.5 centuries fighting to make those promises real. And so today, we're going to tell that story. For the next 3 hours, we're bringing you 3 of the sharpest minds in black America: Connie Rice, Dr. Cornel West, and Shermichael Singleton. Now, I suspect they won't agree on everything. In fact, I hope they don't. It's more fun that way. But they do agree, and I hope you do as well, that this historic moment deserves some real conversation, not just celebration. So, what does America's 250th birthday this weekend actually mean when you look at it through a black lens, through black history, through black struggle, and through black contribution? That is the big question of today. We're going to wrestle with it in a variety of ways, I suspect, over the next 3 hours. We'll talk to Dr. Cornel West in hour 2, as per usual, on a Monday and a Thursday, and Shermichael Singleton in hour 3. But we commence today's show with Connie Rice, who I'm delighted to say has joined me for this occasion live in studio. It's just a delight and a joy, as always, to see you, Connie Rice. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Tavis. It's better now that I'm here with you.
Yeah, thank you. I feel the same way. I'm just glad to have you come in. She's coming in studio. What? It's going to be a great day because Connie's coming to see Tavis. Let me start with this. You have said time and time again, and I've come to quote you so often, and now it's funny because people walk up to me and they quote me quoting you, which is, get your frame right. All right? So let me just ask you to set the frame for this hour, for all 3 hours, and we'll work our way in. I got 2 or 3 minutes here now. You know how it works. We come forward. We got the rest of the hour. But just give me the frame that we need to be in for this conversation, looking at it through our lens 250 years in. What is the proper frame?
I think the proper frame for us as African Americans is a celebration of our stupendous, staggering resilience, determination, and devotion. Think about what it took to survive the Middle Passage. I mean, you and I studied slavery in college, at least I did, and all of the different kinds of slavery that hit the African continent, because there's slavery in the Asian continent and elsewhere, but the African continent that involves our ancestors. You go through that history, Tavis, and I don't know how we're still here. We are still here. Not only are we just still here, we created this country. And I look back at our ancestors and I think about what we are made of and what we have not just survived, but survived intact. Survived intact and ready to keep fighting. Think about that. And you remember my grandmother said, "You haven't earned the right to despair." You know, she had to sit in her kitchen with a long gun over her knee in Birmingham, Alabama, with a Klan coming. I'm sorry, we have been here before, and we have been in much worse places. And to come out of mass kidnapping, mass enslavement, the Middle Passage was its own hellscape. 2 million Africans. The Atlantic Ocean is a cemetery. And then to come here and be put on the auction block and to be split and sold and enslaved and mass raped. You realize, they talk about the Great Replacement theory. It's not a theory for us. They actually replaced Africans with African Americans through mass rape. So, Great Replacement is a reality for us. I'm a walking Confederate monument. Okay.
Come on, Connie Rice.
Just
stop for a second. It's going to be rich for the rest of this hour. And then we got Dr. Cornel West. And then we'll hear what Shermichael has to say about it. I'm so glad Connie Rice is in studio, so I can see this brilliance and not just hear it as I typically do. June is Black Music Month, and we have exited June. But I was talking to Dr. Cornel West the other night, and I was like, we got a couple more days left this week. And Doc said, why don't we just play it out the rest of the week? Let's just take it into the the big celebration this weekend, or the commemoration, depending on how one looks at it, right? And so yesterday we extended it, our artist of the day, by playing the best of Aretha Franklin. I said, Doc, okay, I'll let you choose who we close this week with. We'll come back to this next June, Lord willing. As we say, if the Lord says the same, we'll come back to it next June. But I'll let Doc choose the artist of this day, our last live show this week. And this is what he chose.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
As parents, we have a million things running through our minds. Playdates, checkups, groceries, laundry, diapers, work, carpool schedules, picture day, swim team, did we mention diapers, birthday parties, meal prep, lost permission slips, dentist appointments, and the dog that still needs to be walked. So it's easy to make a mistake. Oh, I forgot birthday candles. Sit tight, hon, I'll be right back. We say we'd never put our kids in danger by leaving them in the car alone. Oh, wait, since when are candles not on the baking aisle? But never happens. And temperatures as low as 60 degrees can be deadly for children left behind. So always bring them with you, and every time you park the car, stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
See website for details. MyFastCash.com is not a lender and does not make credit decisions. Must be 18 years old. Not available in all states.
The mechanic called. The repair's going to be $750.
Oh, we got rent and the car payment, on top of groceries, gas, and other bills. We don't have an extra $750 right now.
We could try MyFastCash.com. When short on expenses, you can go to MyFastCash.com and can get money as soon as the next day.
MyFastCash.com?
Yes, they can connect you to one of the largest lender networks, and you can get a loan even with bad credit. We could be approved for up to $5,000 fast.
$5,000? That must be a long process.
Nope, approval can happen in just a few minutes right from your phone, and funds could hit our account by tomorrow.
If you have a regular source of income and a bank account, you could be approved for up to $5,000, even with bad credit history. And the cash can hit your bank account the next day.
Honey, I'm going to myfastcash.com right now.
Thank goodness.
If you need extra cash, go to myfastcash.com. That's myfastcash.com. myfastcash.com.
Loan availability, approval, and funding times vary. Terms apply.
As a fitness coach, my active psoriatic arthritis can slow me down. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, I'm treating my skin and joint symptoms so I can keep moving. Skyrizi, a prescription-only injection for adults, helps me move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. And for those who have plaque psoriasis, 90% clearer skin is possible. With Skyrizi, there's no daily dosing. It's just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement. And that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZI to learn more.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Like a dull knife, just ain't cutting. Just talking loud and saying nothing. Just saying nothing. Just saying nothing. You can't tell me how to run my life down. You can't tell me how to keep my business sound. You can't tell me Cost me 3 times 7, and then some more. You can't tell me, hey, you're like a dull knife, you just ain't cutting. You're just talking loud and saying nothing.
You're like a dull knife. You just ain't cutting. You're talking loud, but you ain't saying nothing. It's the best of the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. All 3 hours of our program today. You know, we do it in June, Black Music Month. We choose a different artist of the day and play the best of their catalog. All 3 hours of our show, weaving in and out these amazing conversations with these great guests. That's how we do it in June. I know we've escaped June a couple of days ago, but we thought we'd just close out the week, these last couple of days of this live program. Yesterday was Aretha, and the music today is being curated by DJ Doc. That would be Dr. Cornel West. He's choosing all the tracks today. We're playing all 3 hours from James Brown. Dr. West will be with us at the top of and for the full second hour of this program as we wrestle with what this 250th anniversary means, how we process it through a black lens. We've started this hour as we should with Connie Rice. There is some news today. We'll get to some of that, and since she's here, we're going to hear her take on birthright citizenship and DSA, DSA uprising, or rising up, depending on how one looks at it. There's a lot to talk to Connie about, but we wanted to start this dialogue with her with a proper frame for how we get at this conversation. Others have had their say, but we need to have our say today on the eve of this big anniversary this weekend. So you were just saying, you on a roll, I hate to